All right, let's get talking. They tried to burn a boy, but was he wrong? And did he repeat basically what's already been said? So right now I'm showing you Burner Boy, and it says Burner Boy cleans up remarks regarding Africa and African Americans. Okay, so going here, when it opens up, we see Elijah Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan, and Fard Muhammad right here. Wait, let me see it's right cursor right here, whom both of these men claimed was Allah incarnate, was God. Okay, and supposedly, according to Mr. God here, we, I'll say for right now, I guess it would be one of the least offensive terms. We black Americans are Asiatic and from the tribe of Shabazz, which lived on Earth trillions of years ago. Okay. However, that is not accepted by, I'd say, the majority of us. So we go over here. This might not be the right picture. In fact, I know it's not the right picture of this particular individual. William Sanders Crowdy. Up here it says Frank S. Cherry. William Sanders Crowdy was a man who claimed that God, and apparently the God uh, who came to him in some vision, was not Mr. Muhammad, not Mr. Fraud. He claimed that he had village, a vision that we were Jews, and he founded a church. And I could go into more details, but I'm just trying to give you a quick rundown of these characters. So now we could go here. Okay. More claims of a tie to Jews. Keep in mind the letters here. And it says the Moorish Zionist Temple of the Moorish Jews. This is in New York. Back in what date is this? Not sure what date this was made, but it's early, probably 1920s or 1930s. Okay. the Magen David, Star of David, Hebrew letters. Now, those who call themselves Hebrew Israelites, to avoid the term Jew, they have an issue with the term Jew, do not use these particular letters, claiming that they are Yiddish. And I could go down that whole rabbit hole. Again, just as this brief rundown. So we will now close this out. Go over here to Chief Warhorse. A lady claiming that we are Native American. Okay. Mr. Dane Calloway, who claims that we are Native and not African. Some of these pictures, some of these pictures are not relevant. Anyways, I don't have a whole lot of detail on her. But what I will say is her attire is more so plains Native American, and generally women do not wear headdresses like this. And she's connecting herself to the Chata or Choctaw, and they didn't really wear this either. So it's kind of like she has uh, stereotypical, I guess, like TV limited uh, understanding of Native Americans. Okay, and so we will then go on to this. Washita. See a guy here claiming. I'm sure I got it where you can actually see it well. Oh, sorry. The guy is saying that he is, it says, was a self proclaimed Crown Prince Emperor El Bey. Is this Big Bay Bagby? Anyways, once again, we see Plains hairdress, a very stereotypical view of Native Americans, which is, again, this is like Plains attire. And I'm not sure if this is a pipe for tobacco. So very like this old Western movie view of Native American people. And then we see this El Bay. Okay, now closing out that, we now go over to Ottoman Bay. Bey is actually a Turkish title. I'll let you be the one to apply Occam's razor. Ahmed Niazi Bey to um, people who claim or pretend to be Indian, pretend to mean claim, having Bey, which is an Ottoman Turkish title connected to their names. And we will close that out. And now go over here to Moorish Science Temple. This is actually their website. It says a pure Moorish Islamic community to inform, educate, and uplift. Our story. I don't have time for all of that. But this is um, Timothy Drew, aka Noble Drew Ali, who told Black Americans that they were Moors or Moroccans. So let me just go so far. We've gone through being told that we were Jews, that we were from a trillion-year-old Asiatic Shabazz tribe by a guy who was claimed to be God. I don't know if he made that claim himself, but was claimed to be God by some other leaders of black people. Other images of him. A very patriotic individual. Wearing the same Ottoman fez cap, and also incorporated the term um, Bey, and he had issue with black people referring to themselves as Negro. So he says, "Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthright, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the family of nations. We honor all the true and divine prophets," and different uh, paraphernalia. And by the way, um, he claimed that we came from Emexim, which he said was Africa. It can get confusing because you have claims of being Moabites, claims of being Moroccans, claims of being Asiatic. Uh, Rather interesting group of claims. But now these are Moroccans. I'm not saying they don't have lighter Moroccans, not saying they don't have darker Moroccans, but in general, in a crowd of Moroccans, this is what you would uh, not be surprised to see. Obviously, even from the black and white picture, you can see that Mr. Drew Ali did not look like a typical Moroccan, and indeed, he was not born in Morocco, and there's no evidence of anybody in his family being Moroccan. Dare I say, he just made that shit up. Now we get into, I guess, the white folks. So this is Judge Taney of the Supreme Court, who ruled in 1857 that black people were not citizens and could not be citizens of the United States. Okay, let's see if I can find what he said. Okay, Dred Scott decision, opinion of Chief Justice Taney. Hopefully, I'll be able to read it. Let's see. Or at least you can see it. Even if. Okay, let's see. African Negroes. Let me blow it up. Dred Scott, plaintiff in error, versus John F.A. Sanford. It says right here, a free Negro of the African race whose ancestors were brought to this country and sold as slaves is not a citizen within the meaning of the Constitution of the United States. So that was in 1857. Anything else I can find? Anyways, you see that, and you see in the original document. African. Put that in. a little bit. No, it's pronounced Tani. I said Tanny. Okay. Okay. Okay, it says here the defendant pleaded in abatement to the jurisdiction of the court that the plaintiff was not a citizen of the state of Missouri, as alleged in his declaration, being a Negro of African descent whose ancestors were of pure African blood and who were brought into this country and sold as slaves. Okay, I didn't really read that. You can read it if you want to. Um, let's see. But anyways, it says that Dred Scott was African. It would be observed that the plea applies to that class of persons only whose ancestors were Negroes of the African race and imported into this country and sold and held as slaves. And it goes on further, and it says, um, those persons who are descendants of Africans who were imported into this country and sold as slaves. And it mentions Indians, and it lets you know that Africans and Indians are not the same. The situation of this population was altogether unlike that of the Indian race. The latter, it is true, formed no part of the colonial communities and never amalgamated with them in social connections or in government. But although they were uncivilized, they were yet a free and independent people, associated with associated together in nations or tribes and governed by their own laws. Many of these political communities were situated in territories to which the white race claimed the ultimate right of dominion, but that claim was acknowledged to be subject to the right of the Indians to occupy it as long as they thought proper, and neither the English nor colonial governments claimed or exercised any dominion over the tribe or nation by whom it was occupied, nor claimed the right to the possession of the territory until the tribe or nation consented to cede it. These Indian governments were regarded and treated as foreign governments, as much so as if an ocean had separated the red man from the white. So they say red man. And their freedom has constantly been acknowledged from the time of the first immigration to the English colonies to the present day by the different governments which succeeded each other. Treaties have been negotiated with them, and their alliance sought for in war. And the people who compose these Indian political communities have always been treated as foreigners, not living under our government. It is true that the course of events has brought the Indian tribes within the limits of the United States under subjection to the white race, and it has been found necessary for their sake as well as our own to regard them as in a state of pupillage and to legislate to a certain extent over them and the territory they occupy, but they may, without doubt, like subjects of any other foreign government, be naturalized by the authority of Congress and become citizens of a state and of the United States. And if an individual should leave his nation or tribe and take up his abode among the white population, he would be entitled to all the rights and privileges which would belong to an immigrant from any other foreign people. So you see, Native Americans got some props, they got some respect. The words people of the United States and citizens are synonymous terms and mean the same thing. Okay, you read on about that. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, going on down, skipped a lot. The question then arises whether the provisions of the Constitution in relation to the personal rights and privileges to which the citizen of a state should be entitled embraced the Negro African race, Negro African race, Negro African race, Negro African race. At that time in this country, or who might afterwards be imported, who had then or should afterwards be made free in any state, and to put it and the power of a single state to make him a citizen of the United States and endue him with the full rights of citizenship in every other state without their consent, does the Constitution of the United States act upon him whenever he shall be made free under the laws of his state and raised there to the rank of a citizen, and immediately clothe him with all the privileges of a citizen in every other state and in all its courts? So this is before any amendment um, was passed. And it says, it becomes necessary, therefore, to determine who were citizens of the several states when the Constitution was adopted. And in order to do this, we must recur to the governments and institutions of the 13 colonies when they separated from Great Britain and formed new sovereignties and took their places in the family of independent nations. We must inquire who at that time were recognized as the people or citizens of a state whose rights and liberties had been outraged by the British government, by the English government, and who declared their independence and assumed the powers of government to defend their rights by force of arms. So, who were those people who fought not to be a part of Great Britain? In the opinion of the court, the legislation and histories of the times, and the language used in the Declaration of Independence show that neither the class of persons who had been imported as slaves, nor their descendants, whether they had become free or not, were then acknowledged as a part of the people, nor intended to be included in the general words used in that memorable instrument. It is difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world at the time of the Declaration of Independence and when the Constitution of the United States was framed and adopted. But the public history of every European nation displays it in a manner too plain to be mistaken. They had for more than a century been regarded as beings of an inferior order, and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and traffic whenever a profit could be made by it. This opinion was at that time fixed and universal in the civilized portion of the white race. It was regarded as an axiom in morals as well as in politics, which no one thought of disputing or supposed to be open to dispute, and men in every grade and position in society daily and habitually acted upon it in their private pursuits as well as in matters of public concern, without doubting for a moment the correctness of this opinion. And in no nation was this opinion more firmly fixed or more uniformly acted upon than by the English government and English people. They not only seized them on the coast of Africa and sold them or held them in slavery for their own use, but they took them as ordinary articles of merchandise to every country where they could make a profit on them, and were far more extensively engaged in this commerce than any other nation in the world. Again, the English says right here, were far more extensively engaged in this commerce than any other nation in the world. The opinion thus entertained and acted upon in England was naturally impressed upon the colonies they founded on this side of the Atlantic, and accordingly, a Negro of the African race was regarded by them as an article of property, and held and bought and sold as such in every one of the 13 colonies which united in the Declaration of Independence, afterwards formed the Constitution of the United States. The slaves were more or less numerous in the different colonies as slave labor was found more or less profitable, but no one seems to have doubted the correctness of the prevailing opinion of the time. Okay, so we close that out. There's this image of Dred Scott, both a painting and a black and white portrait before a color portraiture was possible. Okay, now closing that out, going to a slave advertisement. Okay. Colonial newspapers contributed to the perpetuation of slavery. Advertised 250 years ago today, Runaway, a young Igbo Negro man named Tom of a yellowish complexion, South Carolina, and American General Gazette, 8/30/1769. So it's more than 250 years by now, but here is the advertisement. That's where you see Igbo. Okay, and how much they were going to give if he was caught. If he was caught by another black person, they were going to give that black person less for snitching than they would have the white guy for turning him in. But anyways, closing that out. Just show you when they say yellowish complexion and Negro, what they meant. Just a visual. Somebody like that who happens to be from that tribe or ethnic group. If you don't like the term tribe. Now we go into people's claims about their grandmothers. And Mr. Gates, Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. heard the same thing that I heard about 45 years ago. High cheekbones and straight black hair. Or high cheekbones and straight black hair. Do a close scroll down. Zora Neale Hurston once wrote with characteristic irony that she thought she was the only Negro in the United States whose grandfather on the mother's side was not an Indian chief. Like most of African Americans I've interviewed, I was raised believing that one of my great great grandmothers was all or part Native American with high cheekbones and straight black hair. In my family, this was gospel. No one even thought about the possibility that it might not be true, since sure enough, there were plenty of people on my family tree, as family photos attested, about those who had passed, who did in fact have those proverbial much valued cheekbones and some variation of that long and silky straight black hair.